Let's go ahead and bring in Steiner Sports CEO, Brandon Steiner.
One of the country's top memorabilia moguls.
I have an unbelievable guest, Brandon Steiner.
Brandon's second to none.
I've got the lonely entrepreneur, Michael Dermer, here with me. We're going to talk a little bit of entrepreneurship, some of the ups, downs, and what it takes to get you through this process, because being an entrepreneur is lonely. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, thanks for having me.
We only met like a couple weeks ago, and I loved your story. And you know, I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Explain to me. We'll get into the book in a minute, but just explain, you know, what you do and even how this book comes about.
So I started as an M&A lawyer, corporate lawyer, big New York law firm, but wanted to start a business. And I stumbled upon the business that I started. I started the first company in the U.S. to reward people for being healthy in the early 2000s. So now you see wellness programs all over the place. But
how'd that work? Break that down for me, because we don't reward people for being healthy, but it's a priority. But that's not a bad idea. How does that work? Because people get money, they get prizes.
So think of a loyalty program like American Express Rewards, but for getting mammograms, right? So I started the business because I came across a stat that said for every 10 pregnant women that don't follow their prenatal care, it costs the healthcare system $1 million. So you're like, well, why wouldn't you just bribe these women? So that was it. You know, left a corporate job and realized that for every healthcare condition in the U.S., we know what we want people to do. You know, guy my age, guy your age, women, they just don't do it. And if they did it, they
Who does? Does anybody do what they're supposed to do?
No.
It's unbelievable. And it's so now with everything going on with the internet and everything, it really is pretty plain out for you to see. It's not like you have to spend a lot of money to go get the intel.
Yeah. And think about even a woman who's pregnant. You would think they would be the most motivated people on the planet to do the stuff they're supposed to do.
My wife was very motivated, though. I mean, she had that book out every night, was like underlining. Yeah. But I think, but on the other hand, do you think people feel that they're not entitled to be able to do the right thing? They're not, this is self-esteem, or is it they're just so down on their luck they figure they're gonna be, that's just everything's just a chance? And
if you're a woman in Iowa that makes $38,000 a year and you've got 2 kids and bills to pay, and you're like, I'm gonna go spend $50, I feel fine. You know, there's a lot of socioeconomic stuff that goes into it. But every consumer industry, airline, hotel, you name it, that tries to get a consumer to do something has a loyalty program. But for some reason in healthcare, where we're trying to get people to do big things, like you and I would love to go have a pizza right now, right? But we know
no question.
What I
would love to have a pizza
great
right
pizza
now.
here. So we started the first company to do that.
What was some of the rewards? Give me an example.
It looks exactly like a credit card loyalty program. So it was gift cards, debit cards, money into your health savings account, or money off your insurance premium. So cash and cash equivalents.
Now, are you still doing that? Did you sell that company?
So I built that company up over 10 years, but the first 5 years of that company were incredibly lean. So I was the typical leave a big corporate job, start from scratch startup, build it up. For 5 years, the healthcare industry said, we're never going to reward people for the things they should be doing anyway. After about 7 or 8 years, you know, venture capital backed, after about 7 or 8 years, by 2008, we'd built the company up to about a $60 million company. And we had quote unquote made it. And we were the only ones doing this. And when we literally almost got destroyed overnight by the financial crisis. Our $60 million company, you know, our customers were the biggest companies in America. It's a software license business. Literally, our $60 million business built on our backs got cut in half in a week.
That was an easy thing to cut away when things were bad, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
And those companies were going through survival mode. It wasn't about, you know, the externalities.
On the $60 million, were you making some good coin on that?
Software license business. 500 employees.
So you at the peak of your company, $60 million. How many employees?
500 employees.
Wow. So you were rock and rolling.
We were rock and roll. Now remember, the first 5 years were lean because we had to convince the healthcare industry to do
you
this.
recommend starting a company being lean? Do you regret it, or would you do something differently?
Oh, it's been the life journey, like you share about it in your book, is been amazing. Be a different person. But
I think lean makes it, you know, because when you're lean, it enables you to make better decisions, not just based on money.
Yeah. Although sometimes
when you got your back against the wall on the money grab, you got to go do some things that maybe the timing's not right, or more things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Did you find that, or?
Well, I found that in an industry like healthcare, capital helps, right? So it's one thing if you and I go start a pizza stand, we could probably bootstrap it. If you're trying to change the healthcare system,
that's a big play.
It's a big play.
Now, how's the book come into play?
So
The lonely entrepreneur. I like the way that sounds, because most people in this day and age think that the entrepreneur is on stage and it's such a miraculous, courageous, on the radar thing.
Yep.
But it does get lonely, doesn't it?
So think about the way people know you and your background. They see Brandon Steiner, president, CEO, has a foundation, does all this cool stuff, sits in the first row in Yankee Stadium with Julianne, but they don't know the guts of what it actually took to get there, right? And all the
They don't want to know.
bodies buried along the way.
The mornings of crying and the sleepless nights.
Right.
Not that I'm complaining, but it is a very dark, lonely place. When you're really trying to get to some place,
Yep.
or you're trying to even come up with the idea.
Sure, especially when you're trying to be innovative like you are. So the 2 years after the financial crisis were crazy. So working 20 hours a day just to save the business. And then fortunately, after about 2 years, the economy stabilized from the financial crisis, and there was all this interest in healthcare. And people approached us and said, you guys have been doing this for 10 years. And we got approached by investment bankers and we got bought. And it worked out great, but it was wild.
What does working out great mean? It mean you made some money, you're able to just get out from underneath yourself because things were sliding, or you had an upside if the company continued to do well? What does it mean it worked out?
Was fortunate enough to never have to work a day in my life.
So you made some money on this.
Yeah.
You had a money grab.
Yeah. So
all right. Good for you, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Because you were probably thinking maybe you were going to be out of business, and all of a sudden somebody came in and grabbed you.
In 2007, someone made an offer to us, which was a sick amount of money, and we'd like, why'd we ever sell the company? Arguably, a year later, the company was worth nothing because of the financial crisis.
So you sold it just in time.
Well, no. After the financial crisis, we had to build it back up.
Oh, okay.
And fortunately, because healthcare had been so ignored in the economy, these investment bankers approached us and said, this is the future of healthcare. We've got to get people to change their behavior. Rewards is the key, and we got bought. But what led me to Lonely Entrepreneur is I was just relaxing. It was the first time in years after a very intense time I was chilling out.
What was that like?
It was
honestly,
it was needed.
So you were enjoying it? You were a little flipped out because you had this like nervous energy left.
So here's what I would say.
Were you feeling like you should be doing something? Were you feeling like I deserve this? I'm taking this time off.
Well, hold
I'm
on.
chilling.
You asking me or you asking you? Right. So it's the same.
I ask myself that question often, but I kind of feel like I probably enjoy working more than I would be relaxed and taking it easy.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm working stuff.
For about a week or two, it felt really strange. I live a block from the New York Public Library in New York. I'd never gone in it before. Ever. Walked in it. But pretty quickly, I was like, okay. I mean, this is ridiculous. Like 15 years of working your ass off, and you're like, what do I do next? So I was just literally helping entrepreneurs for fun. So just sit down in New York City, just talk, BS, have coffee, help them, right? Didn't know what I wanted to do. And one of them said to me, being an entrepreneur is really lonely. And I was like, yep, that's it. And we thought we could say, everybody could use an hour with you with all of your life experiences and could use a coach or a consultant. But for every one of those that can afford that, there's thousands and thousands that are, right, maxing out their credit cards, all the stuff that you've been through.
And probably doing a lot of the inefficient, wrong things just because they don't know better.
And listen, once they call you an entrepreneur, you have license to be a moron. They're like, as long as you have passion, just run into that wall 100 times. And if you do it harder or faster.
Keep going, never give up, don't stop. I'm like, no,
if you worked 5 years.
Your idea may suck. You may want to stop.
Right. Eventually, you'd like to have them not slam their head into the wall to learn. Yeah. So we thought that we could really, since we've been there, you've been there, just like your book, right? Like we thought that we could really help a lot of people by saying, listen, we've been in your shoes and we know what it takes, and can we provide you resources that actually give you a better chance of success? So we wrote the book, built a learning platform, which we'll talk about.
Who's we, by the way? Is it your wife or partner or?
No, literally, it was originally me, and then now I have a team of about 15 people.
Helping entrepreneurs?
Yep.
So you're an agency to help entrepreneurs.
Yep. Most of what we do is we have a online,
like a little corner store, like on Main Street. You can entrepreneurs come on in. Like
back in the 50s. Now, we're what we tried to do.
Cool, by the way.
Right.
I'd love to have a little store right in the city.
Lonely entrepreneur. Right?
Lonely entrepreneurs, come on in, and you get an hour consultation.
161st Street, right next to Yankee Stadium. Right.
I would love that, man. That's cool. So right now you have 15 people.
Yep.
And are people like setting up appointments, or you have to? How do you get hired?
Most of what we do is this online learning platform. So basically, what we said was there's a million things you need to know, and right now entrepreneurs go all over to find that. We put it all online in one platform. So you basically come to us, you pay a subscription of $500 a year as an entrepreneur.
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Very reasonable. Do you think that's too cheap?
No, we just want to make it available to as many people as possible.
So it wasn't a money grab?
No. And so can you go to one place and get a lot of the learning you need, right? Everything from, like, listen, somebody doesn't know what an income statement is, right? Somebody doesn't know what to do when you're freaking out and you have no cash on a Saturday night, right? All of the business and personal lessons, and we put in there, business plan templates and reviews of software vendors, and we have an online community around it. And so what we're trying to do is really, back in the day, it would be
online community meaning I got a problem, I don't know how to borrow money, I don't know how to get money from a bank. Does anyone know how to do that? You put that online, other people weigh in?
Yep. Our teams weigh in, and then everybody else weighs in as well. Wow. Hey, I tried this, I tried that. So
what site is that?
It's just called lonelyentrepreneur.com.
I love that. Yeah. So on lonelyentrepreneur.com, you have this package for $500, but there's also kind of like an open forum.
Yeah, so there's...
Or you have to join the $500.
You join the $500. We've got a bunch of free stuff there.
Yeah.
So we do things like books and speaking and stuff like that.
Is this like a not-for-profit?
Well, in a lot of ways it is. In fact...
Are we... I mean, not really. This sounds almost too good to be true.
No, that part's not non-for-profit, but we actually just formed a non-for-profit because what we do is we take, let's say there's an organization that wants to empower women or ex-inmates or inner-city kids. We say, we've got this platform, give us a little nonprofit funding and we'll make the platform available to them for free. So, but it's this whole idea that even though everyone would love to talk and sit down with you, most people can't afford it. So how do we use technology through a platform to enable people that, for every person that's in like an incubator, there's 1,000 that are just on their own, right, trying to figure out how to do that.
It's hard to find good advice, I should say, right?
Yeah.
Good mentorship.
So listen, and as you know, for every 100 business school classes you learn, there's 1,000 lessons that you don't. And for me, over the course of the 10 years of building my company, probably just like you, I learned a ton. But in those 2 years during the financial crisis were like 20 years of learning.
Back against the wall, somebody looking maybe the bottom falling out.
Big boys and girls shit, right? And decisions that we
game
normally
over shit.
Yeah, and remember, we had made it at that point. Like we,
same. I thought we were done in 2007 too.
Yeah,
because the worst thing that can happen is when wealthy people don't feel wealthy.
Yeah.
Even though they still are, but when their wealth, descends and they're not feeling good, they'll just stop.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand. That plays a big role in our economy when the people with a lot of money don't spend it from a corporate standpoint and a personal standpoint.
Yeah.
And certainly it trickles down. Obviously, people don't have a lot of money, but for our company, the worst thing of all things can happen is when wealthy people aren't as wealthy.
Yep.
But still cut us out in a New York City minute.
Yep. And just even though that you and I just met the one time a couple weeks ago, think about how much we share in common. I mean, people have not had the level of success you had, but think about even your business. No one's created anything like Steiner Sports, right? But you go through challenges. You probably have a million war stories that I know you share, and even though we're different and we've never really met, me and you and the person in Iowa are basically going through the same struggles.
We're all unique, but we're all going through the same stuff. And that's what I try to do in my last book. Because the Balls book was really a book about here's how it all come together. Here's a lot more of the success.
Yep.
And I really was a little stingy on the lonely part, the dark part, which I think we all are. Nobody wants to go out on a street corner and start broadcasting all their screw-ups. And I just felt the need to show both sides of it. And I don't think my life, other than the money part of it, which is not that big a deal, really. It's easy to say when you have some, but at the end, we're all going through the same shit. And the money shouldn't define you. Like, the money is just what you have. It's not who you are.
Yep.
And it's like, I was poor. That was my circumstance that was poor. I wasn't a poor person. I was just a person that didn't have a lot of money.
Yep.
I was actually a rich person that didn't have a lot of money. And I think we need to start getting more of that kind of thinking out there. And listen, I like the money grab. I like the stuff that money gets or the choices you get with it.
Yep.
It's kind of fun. I'm not giving it back. I'm not feeling guilty about it like I used to, which is what, I felt really guilty for a period of time. Like, why me, not my brothers, or how did this happen? Because it usually is bigger than you. And the real question is, what are you going to do with the money? But the lonely entrepreneur thing, what I enjoy, which is what took me to you at the conference that I was speaking at, was, wow, this guy's helping entrepreneurs. This guy actually is mentoring people for all the right reasons, which I love doing and do it every day. Is this the end game for you? Like, is it not a big deal on the money grab? Are you going for another level of money grab, or are you just going to just really help as many people as you can?
I think for us, what's great, like if you can find something where you can do both, right, it's great. So if you look at the worldwide trend around entrepreneurship, not just in the U.S., if you go to Dubai and Shanghai and Singapore, everybody realizes that in Africa, if we don't spur businesses, we're going to have 40% unemployment on the continent. So it's this macro trend, but the common element is how do you give people these basic skills they need to be.
You're not getting them in school.
No.
Right? I mean, that's the other. I see all these programs, entrepreneurship programs, but they're being taught by people that have never done anything entrepreneurial, and some of them not even been in business, which is criminal because, first of all, the other problem I have is that all the entrepreneurship programs are in the business school, which is like, it should be a school-wide commitment.
Absolutely.
Like entrepreneurship should just be a program that everyone in every school should take. But this is entrepreneurship in architect, in legal, accounting, media, newspaper. We've seen tremendous communications entrepreneurs, and I don't think that people understand like the entrepreneurship mindset. They look at it just like come up with a good idea, develop an app, and make a shitload of money. Like that is just so short-sighted, and it's almost disrespectful.
It is, and I think that we've done a real
lack of understanding.
Lack of understanding. I think we've done a real disservice to entrepreneurs because for something that requires so many different facets of your life, personal, professional, financial, family, like all the stuff, emotion, ego, like all the stuff that goes into that, we just said, here you go figure it out. And if you have passion and a good idea, you're good. And that does and maybe when I started my business, or maybe in the early days where people weren't doing what you were doing with Steiner, when people weren't paying attention and you were the only game in town with all the hard work. But now people max out their credit cards and drink and sacrifice their social lives. So for us to sit by and be like, hey, you're on your own, we're really doing them a disservice. So what we're trying to do
is Shark Tank hurts too.
It does.
Because everything's about the money, the reoccurring, and it's all P&L driven, frankly, right? And it would be nice if they put on some miscellaneous entrepreneurs because they're worth investing in too.
Totally.
And there could be a money grab even on those, right? It'd be great to say, I've got this great book idea, or I've got this great way to communicate. And everything's just, if you don't have a really line to reoccurring revenue growth, they're never letting you on the show. So then kids are watching that, they're thinking the only way to get into entrepreneurship is if I come up with a really good business idea that's going to have reoccurring revenue and revenue growth. If not, I can't be an entrepreneur. That's the message that's showing. And it kills me. Even though I do like that show, I think some great learning lessons. They do a good job with it. It's only like...
But here's the problem. The problem is that somebody goes and watches that show, they get something from their university, they're at a WeWork, and they're getting great advice potentially from everywhere, but it doesn't all fit together for them. Right? If we're going to start a restaurant, we know it's got to have a bar, it's got to have a kitchen. Nobody does that for entrepreneurs. They don't give them kind of a framework. Think about you building a baseball team.
They think it's just a matter of coming up with a good idea and boom.
Right. If you build a baseball team, you're like, I need pitching staff and your bullpen. I need offense. There's a framework.
That's a small fraction of it because, the back end of it, marketing, accounting, human resources, all that stuff, brand building. I mean, you need a lot of different elements. And I feel like the kids are really quick now where they're leaving school or they're jumping out of school and they're jumping into this. Which I like that fearlessness, but they're not ready.
It's almost like if you walked into a car dealership and all the parts were on the ground and they said, that's your car, figure it out. It's just too much. And so if you don't give people a structure, so that's what we're trying to do. Ultimately, for what we're trying to do with the Lonely Entrepreneurs, we want a TV show. Like we want Lonely Entrepreneur Brooklyn, right? Where we talk about the stories of struggle.
Why not do that online then?
No, we'll do that too. But
why not do that
we want to be able to touch them with real lessons, like just the stuff that's like in your books. It's not anybody can tell you what an income
I like
statement
the kid entrepreneur.
Totally.
Like to me, what I would love to do is take a little bit of what the Shark Tank's doing, but with some people that are a little more. I don't want to use the wrong word because I think all those sharks are benevolent. I'm sure you do a lot, but I would a little more benevolent approach, meaning they're not looking at every nook and cranny, and invest in high school and college entrepreneurship for all the right reasons in all the different realms, not just the business idea.
Well, one of the things we're doing with
that could work.
The nonprofit stuff is taking our platform and trying to bring it to high school kids. So working with some foundations to say, this is the basic. Think about if when you were in high school, right, somebody has said to you, this is what it means to be an entrepreneur. Here's some basic business building blocks to start with, right? And you can get a framework.
Well, I had my mom. I was lucky, and my mom was an entrepreneur. But that was a rare.
That
was a rarity to have a mother who was like, no, this is how it works. And that's like, I go home and say, Mom, I got this idea. because I was baking bagels, delivering bagels. I said, you know, I want to go and we're going to have this van. We're going to cut out the side and we're going to deliver bagels. And then we'll have all different cream cheeses and all that stuff. And we'll go up and down the streets in Brooklyn and deliver the bagels.
Yep.
And, you know, she's like, you're 15. You can't drive.
Right.
I mean, did you think about who's going to drive this van and how you're going to come up with the money to buy the van, the insurance for the van, and that's what my mind was thinking, like always.
That's great.
But I had a mom to like run those things by me and, you know, kind of put it in perspective. But I don't know if a lot of kids necessarily have that.
No, but these days they do. I mean, you have, because remember, people don't grow up anymore and go, the cool thing is to go work for IBM. Right, they wake up and say, you see, you know, a blogger on YouTube who's got 1 million views who's getting paid by corporate America to go in there and talk about pizza. Right, those are the things that people are looking up to. They're not looking up to CEOs and presidents. They're like, I want to go do my old side gig, and figure it out. Even companies now are saying, we don't want to prevent you from doing your side gig. We actually want to help you, because otherwise you'll leave and do your own thing. So I think that, because corporate America has changed, and technology and outsourcing and all those macro trends that we affect, the entrepreneur isn't like you, which was the dark sheep risk taker at the time.
I was got to be the weirdest kid in the neighborhood.
Yeah. So that was the anomaly back then. Now it's the norm. Now you've got entrepreneurship clubs at every major high school. You've got Future Business Leaders of America that's got entrepreneurship programs. This is a runaway train. But the problem is that the people that became entrepreneurs probably when you were true risk takers. You knew what you're getting into, you knew it was risk, but you also had time for it to germinate.
Now
today,
time is
you're 5 minutes.
So how has this website been received? Is there a lot of people coming to you now? Is this all coming together?
Yeah.
And are you feeling good about this? Are you feeling like people are appreciative of what you're offering?
It's great. When we first came out with the book, before the learning platform came out, we would literally have people come up to us at a book signing with tears in their eyes. They hadn't read the book yet. You just heard the name and identified with just the stories that everybody has. So I think there's a real connection to us all kind of sitting in the same shoes. The lessons you learn and the things you teach them, all things we're talking about, are incredibly important. But
what's the biggest miss? What's the biggest miss do you find, like when you're writing it to people and they actually get you on the phone and get a meeting with you? What do you think the most common miss is?
The biggest thing that we all face, in my opinion, the biggest lesson that entrepreneurs can learn is we fight clutter more than anything else. We don't fight competitors. We fight clutter, right? There's a million things. There's noise that people do what we don't do, and everybody thinks everything is free. So I think people say to entrepreneurs, come up with your unique selling proposition, right? What makes you unique? And even something unique doesn't stand out. So we think the biggest thing that people don't spend nearly as much time on is, we call it finding a playground where nobody else is playing. Not just saying, I'm going to do memorabilia and I'm going to do it better, because no one's going to pay attention, right? It's, if you're doing this over here, right, I'm going to do something completely over here. I'm going to define my own market. Great analogy. You know the term bucket list?
Of course.
Right? What was a bucket list called the day before that movie came out?
Things I want to do before I die.
Right? It was nothing.
Yeah.
And all somebody did was, like, if they called that movie Pizza List, we would call that Pizza List today. That's what entrepreneurs have to do. They have to, and now everyone's like, exactly, you said, of course it's bucket list. But imagine an entrepreneur that has an idea that says, I'm going to do the next memorabilia company, versus, right, I'm going to do something completely over here with a completely different positioning. Think about Starbucks. Starbucks is a really dumb idea. In New York, where we live,
it's not new.
It's not new. When Starbucks came out in New York, the coffee was great. It's on every corner. It cost $1.50. And they're like, we're going to build a store and charge $4. And if we don't sell any coffee, we're stuck with real estate. But what they did, their playground was, come meet here. Don't even buy coffee. Make it your meeting place.
Let's meet for coffee.
Yeah.
They took on the premise, let's meet for coffee, seriously.
And they took a huge risk, but they basically just created another way of thinking about a very old idea. So entrepreneurs, they'll say, great, I'm going to create a website, I'll do social media, I'll do all this stuff. But if we're all using the same tools, we're all using social media, we're all using podcasts, why do you win, right? You win because you're creating a playground where it's only you. And you can't just say, I'm a little bit unique to the next guy, because nobody's paying attention to that.
Is the entrepreneur an improver or is he an inventor?
Can be either. But if you improve, you still have to create unique positioning. You still have to find a way that goes, how do I get somebody to peel through all the clutter out there and go, yes, I'm going to pay attention. You know, they asked a bunch of consumers, I think it was Toyota did a study, and they said, if you could just build a car on the fly, on your own, like go on the internet and go click, 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 and make all the features you want, or you had a choice of just the ski package and the sport package and the color, which would you choose? And 70% of people picked, just give me the sport package or the ski package or the color.
Really? Why do you think?
Because the world's cluttered, and we want the world simple. You would think people would go, of course I want to build
People think they want control and they want to make all these decisions, but they pretty much want to be told what to do.
Yeah, so themes and ideas, right? So if we were dropped here from Mars and said, tell me about memorabilia, and we go, hey, this guy Steiner basically bought and sold Yankee Stadium, I don't need to hear how many SKUs you have. Like I was like,
that was a unique differentiator.
Holy shit.
That was a differentiator for us.
I want to talk to this guy versus this is what a great memorabilia company is, like the millions of So I don't think entrepreneurs, they spend a lot of time, I'm going to go start doing things.
It's funny, you know the newspaper story I tell?
Yep.
And really at the end, that's what I did as a kid.
Yep.
The lady walking around that finally got the newspaper for me didn't walk around and say, you know, you should meet this young kid. He'll deliver you the newspaper, but he'll bring you bagels, milk, and anything else you need if the weather's bad.
Yep. Yep.
Nobody else is going to do that for you.
Right.
This kid is one quick phone call away, and he'll get you whatever you need.
Yep.
And that was my difference point.
So think about
why
that.
I lit it up as a newspaper route.
Is it different to deliver this, No, it's not different. But if you're like the one kid that did it when the weather's bad, people start to pay attention. And in a world of clutter, right? Money clutter, internet clutter, social media clutter, no one is paying attention to the differences between you and me. So if you're new and you have less money and less people, like all entrepreneurs do in the beginning, you better be the guy who does it in the rain. And you have to use the best talent. If I had an hour with you, I would say, help me find my playground where nobody else is playing. Because you've had enough experience to do it. But too many entrepreneurs just go, right, and say, no, my meatballs are better than anybody else's meatballs. And they'll just show up.
Which is still not going to work.
Still not going to work, even if they are. Like you could, statistically.
There's too many damn meatballs out there, so.
Somebody could send you an email that legitimately had $1 billion in it, and you have a 0.01% chance of even looking at it. So to your question, the biggest mistake I think entrepreneurs make is they don't spend the time saying, how do I find I'm the rainy guy? And fight and take longer to find it. Because once you find that, people go, oh, he's the rainy guy. Or people go, oh, bucket list.
You got to find your one thing.
Your one thing.
You got to find your one thing.
It's really got to stand out, and it can't.
Is that something you talk about in the book? Is that something where you're going to catch up on your website?
Yeah, totally. So all of these little lessons, there's hundreds of them, as you know. Like, how do you go into an investor when you can't afford the Uber ride over and act like you don't need money? Right? Like, there's hundreds and hundreds of lessons that you learn through all of this that we just tried to organize and structure in a way that you can keep going back to all the time.
That's cool.
So it's fun. It's great.
That's cool.
And you know, he asked how it's been received. You know, when you can help people actually kind of realize their passion. I mean, even though you're a seasoned guy, and like you can tell when you talk about it on stage, how much it's a part of what
you got to really want to enjoy helping people more. Like I would say, you know, gotta want to help people get better more than being a doctor. You gotta want to write more than wanting to be a writer.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you gotta want to help people more than you want to sell something. Like,
yeah.
And it's hard because everybody's just looking at their number and their commission.
Yeah.
But when the underlying theory is, I want to help people. Yeah. Like even when I walk in, even when I didn't have anything here, and I was just trying to make a sale, I was just trying to go out there and try to find customers, my instinct always was to help them.
Yep.
And it didn't always flip back into helping myself. But I know I was giving them good intel, good direction.
Yep.
And a lot of times it wasn't about directing them back to me. It was directing them somewhere else. They didn't need me, what I was offering.
Yep.
And that was unique in itself.
Totally. So another lesson is one of the best way to get a customer is tell them to go use somebody else. Right? You're coming to me and I have a bottle of water to sell you and you're thirsty and you're like, but you know what? You really like orange juice? So I don't want to sell you water, but Brandon's got amazing orange juice.
This is the best orange juice. Go there, get it. Because it just shows how powerful and strong and confident you are about your one thing.
And also that you're actually trying to help them solve
trying
their
to help
problem.
them. Yeah.
So, but these things...
Those are little things that most people, I can get you that orange juice,
Totally.
And then all of a sudden you sell me orange juice, not at the right price, maybe not even the best orange juice, and you're in a business you're not really even into.
Think about how
and you lose credibility like that.
Think about how counterintuitive it is for sending somebody to somebody else, and that's the best way to win a customer. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to learn these things, and unfortunately, as we said kind of kiddingly before, you learn these things by slamming into the wall and burning money. So these are little insights that you don't get in business school. And so how do you take like real life experiences and kind of organize? These are things that would roll off your tongue like they're nothing because of what you've done. But to the normal person, even well-educated person, to have this kind of connective tissue of what it really takes, that's what we're trying to do. And I think people, if you go to people and say, you just got to have a unique selling proposition in a big market, you're like, everybody on the planet does. Does any entrepreneur show up without passion? Of course they have passion.
Of course they're passionate, and it's sometimes even desperate. So desperate can create a commitment, and you may have some purpose in there too, which could be really cloudy. To really see what the hell this person.
It does get cloudy as well. So if
especially when you don't have a big staff around you, that usually when you're entering the entrepreneur world, it's you, yourself, and maybe I. It's like then maybe you're in an office chair and you got to share a receptionist. So you really time management's critical. Yep. And making sure you do what you say and making sure you're not trying to do things you can't do.
And there's so many little things, like even you talk about time management. It's so important when it's just you. And just even simple things like doing the hardest thing first thing in the morning. When you're sitting down to do something, turn off your email and put your phone on the other side of the room. And remember, that's hard because you're by yourself, nobody's paying attention. You're just hoping somebody will send you an email.
You're hoping somebody's going to call you. I used to have 3 Rolodexes, and I would start my day off by calling about 100 people, hoping they weren't in, so they'd call back, and the phones would start ringing. And then literally somebody would call. I'd be, hold on. Man, that guy's crazy. He's busy. I'm like, no, I just called a shitload of people, and they're now calling me back. But they didn't know that.
Yeah.
And they got that sense, I was trying to get that momentum going. But I always say the most important thing has to be the most important thing, and you got to start off with the most important thing for the most important person, and you got to do that constantly, every day, all day, all week.
But entrepreneurs don't know what that is.
Like that. Well, that's the hard part. Is before you get into the running, you got to. That's where the strategy comes in, because you panic or you stressed when either you're not confident in your ability, or you're not confident in your plan, which is why a lot of entrepreneurs are panicked.
Absolutely,
because they're not confident in their plan. You know why? Because they don't have one.
Yep.
They think it's the hustle.
Totally.
When it's really about the strategy and the plan and then executing it.
And that's what you just said is a really hard thing for people to grasp.
Oh, it's really difficult.
So if you say you say we're all
just want to get it done.
You want to do social media, but everybody uses social media. So why do you win? Right? And they'll say, okay, you're going to start a PR firm. Great. Go down the street and you're going to go to the Meadowlands Expo and go to the PR conference. But why would you ever go to a PR conference where all of your competitors are? Right? So when you haven't actually created a plan, right? When you say, I'm going to go, you show up at the PR conference, you're like, great, everybody I compete with is here. They all have more money. Like, how is that a plan? So the way you said it is like the instinct is to take the energy and the passion or the desperation or the need for money and run.
It's like, why are you starting this company? Who's this company for? Right. Answer those 2 questions, and then you're in the beginning of your plan.
Yeah.
Only the beginning. So every time I do a new book, I go into a Barnes & Noble and I walk around, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of books here. Yeah. And these are just the new ones. Yeah. I mean, how is my book going to stand out in this place? I mean, why this book over all these others? And I really am hard on myself about it to come up with that answer.
Absolutely.
Because it's not an easy one.
No. And that's why I think
after you get over the ego part of wanting to do a book, but why you want to do a book and who this book is for and how it's going to be different than these other 5,000 other books.
And think about when books come out is all they try to do is they try to get somebody to say something controversial so somebody will pay attention to it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But I think that's true. It's true of so many professions. Like if you think about the publishing industry, the music industry, all of these industries have been disrupted, right? You think about Blockbuster. Who would have ever thought that Blockbuster could disappear? So I think that everybody should wake up. If you and I locked ourselves in this room with a bottle of bourbon and came up with the best idea in the world, we'd still have to walk out with finding our playground and a plan. And that's where I think we've done a little disservice to entrepreneurs. We've just said, go. If you're really into your idea, you're good. And at the end of the day, it's less sexy, but it's the stuff we're talking about that actually
find your playroom. Find your playground.
Yep.
That no one's playing.
Yep. And then once you get that, and you implement what you said, is like, what's the plan to actually make that happen? You know, you could. I told a story one time in front of PR people, And I said, international PR people, really sophisticated, but they're like, how do we compete in PR? It's so competitive, right? And I said, I had just come back from Dubai. And I said, do you know on the 7th floor of the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, no Americans can stay there?
I didn't know that.
And they're like, really, why? And I'm like, and I pause for a second. I go, I just made that up. It's completely not true. But for 2 seconds, you thought I was the smartest PR guy in the world. So it's a lot of these like snippets of this playground and positioning, right? Think about.
I always try to go to a meeting and I always have something to present that I don't think anybody else in the room is going to know about, even if it has nothing to do with what I'm doing.
Yeah, but people are drawn to that when
to stuff that they don't know.
Stuff they don't know. I mean, if you give them, like in this day and age,
60 Minutes is probably the master at it.
Yeah,
you think about it, right? They always come up with something that we're not thinking about. That's completely out of the box about a problem or some severe issue that we're not thinking about, that we're not on the inside of, and they break it and crack it, which is why it's a must-watch TV show. It continues. Can you make your company like 60 Minutes?
Yeah, yeah. And that's, in this day and age, with all the clutter, right, unless you're bringing that knowledge, right, that unique know-how, because, yes, Steiner Sports, everybody knows it, right, but really, there's a trust coming with the fact that you know it better than anybody, right? And anybody can go get, like, a certificate of authenticity, but somebody goes, these guys know more than everybody. Not that you don't have to have the best warehouse or the best like, you know more than everybody else, so I trust you to be able to do it. And there are people that just know, right? And if you can show that knowledge, people will be drawn to your company, your offering, whatever it is. But if you just say, I do a better book, I have a better website, nobody pays attention to that.
Brendan Bouchard talks about it in The Millionaire Messenger. He's like, everyone has the ability to be extraordinary if you want to focus on one thing, learn everything there is about that one thing to become an expert at it, and then let your instincts, everything take over from there. Yep. But if you're not going to be an expert at be really great at one thing, it's going to be very difficult to get to an extraordinary level. It's very hard. One thing, the greatness in one thing will usually take you, will at least give you the elevator up to extraordinary, and then it's amazing. Once you got that covered, you can do other things if you want.
Totally. And
right?
Think about if you commute to work the same way every day, right? You know how the traffic affects you, the weather affects you, you know the timing, and then you can really innovate around that. You could be like, I could be the best at this and people are going to come to me. If you go a different way every day, you're figuring it out all the time. So when you do your one thing, like right now, you could probably start any business you wanted because you were so successful at your one thing, right? And an industry that was hard, needed disruption, like who would buy Yankee Stadium, right?
People feel like you can go do it in that business.
Yeah.
But crosses my mind every day, like, do I want to go disrupt another business, or do I want to keep disrupting this one? But it's a great freedom of choice that you earn when you've accomplished the one thing. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, and I think that we're talking about these things very off the cuff with many, many years of experience. Think about the person who's 32, who's thinking about leaving the corporate job to do their thing. They need this help. Like, they need the ability to know this stuff before they burn their life savings, before they tell their spouse, hey, we'll just make it.
And that's hopefully why your website exists.
Totally. And also like books like yours. So we're trying to help people as much as we can.
All right, we're checking out. We're with Michael Dermer. Go to thelonelyentrepreneur.com. I'm bought in. I mean, I can't imagine that you can't pick up some tips